A skinwalker is a person with the ability to turn into any animal they desire. The Navajo skinwalker is a variety of Navajo witch. It is far more common for men to be skinwalkers, though it is possible for women to be as well. Skinwalkers are most frequently seen as coyotes, wolves, foxes, eagles, owls, or crows, and are not creatures to be trusted. Some Navajo believe that skinwalkers have the ability to steal the face of a person, and some believe that if you ever lock eyes with a skinwalker, they can absorb themselves into your body, allowing a skinwalker to channel that fear to gain power and energy. Skinwalkers are a very intense legend, and while non-believers are quick to devise it as nothing but nonsense, many Navajo will share their chilling skinwalker stories, such as these 6. Number 6. Once when I was a kid, my family was at my aunt's house, which is in a rural, secluded area, when we were toyed with by a few entities. They would make animal noises, and when we looked to the direction from which the noises were coming from, they would turn a flashlight on and off. The noises would come from all directions, in increasingly shorter succession. Usually when I'm visiting the reservation, alone late at night, I will feel the presence of evil and dread. Panic and paranoia will wash over me, and as sudden as it comes, it will leave. Number 5. My family owns a farm in the heart of an Indian reservation. One winter I was home for Christmas taking care of the farm while my parents were away Christmas shopping. I am home by myself, late at night, and I hear all of our cows freaking out. I knew it had to be the wild dogs that are rampant in the area, so I throw on some boots, grab a shotgun, load it up, and head out to the field. This was a perfect scenario for a horror movie. It was cloudy, but there was a full moon, and it was breaking through the clouds just right to light up all the snow. I ran out into the middle of the field. Just in time I see 2 dogs that were standing up facing each other and fighting. I think, perfect, 2 for 1, so I pump a shell into the chamber of Mr. 12 gauge, and then it happened. The 2 dogs heard the rack, they both stopped, looked over at me, and ran away on their back legs. Immediately I froze, and every ghost story about the Skinwalkers and all the Native American legends I heard growing up flew through my mind. Keep in mind, I'm a white guy, and up until then, these were all just boogeyman stories that the native kids liked to tell us to scare us. That night, they became real to me. Number 4. So this was the very early 80s, and my sister who lived in Toronto came down to visit our parents for the weekend. She was staying at a friend's house who loaned her a car so she could come out. After her visit, she left a little after 9 p.m., and she got maybe 7 or 8 miles down the road when her car broke down. Thankfully, she broke down in front of a friend of the family's house. They let her in to call her dad, and Dad came to get her. The family said she could leave the car in the driveway for the night, and my sister decided to just stay at my parents for the night. It was now a little after 10 p.m., and the pitch black of late November, while my sister and Dad are driving back to the house and pass through a heavily wooded area. Out of nowhere, they hear this incredibly loud, inhuman scream that was heard over the engine, them talking, and the radio. Dad slammed on the brakes, and they both started freaking out, when suddenly a 6-foot-tall coyote walking on 2 legs with a black and white striped tail appeared on the side of the road and proceeded to walk in front of the car. As soon as it passed, that same scream played again, only this time it was 10 times louder. Dad slammed on the accelerator and they got the hell out of there, and it was never seen again. Number 3. When we had crossed the reservation's border, I noticed that the bus driver had sped up and was now going about 85 miles an hour. I thought this was a little weird because he had never exceeded the speed limit, at least not in my high school career. For some reason I couldn't fall asleep like the rest of my teammates, and I just sat at the back of the bus staring out across a desolate desert landscape that was lit up by a full moon. As I looked out, I could see a figure running towards the bus at an angle of pursuit, and keeping up with the bus at 85 miles an hour. As the figure got closer, I saw there was a humanoid form. As a matter of fact, it looked exactly like a human, only that the face was painted half black and half white with glowing eyes. Glowing eyes like a rabbit's eyes reflecting light from a spotlight. I immediately thought, holy crap, it's a Skinwalker. The Skinwalker ran up to the edge of the road and just kept up pace with the bus, hurtling sagebrush and rocks while staring at me. After I made eye contact with the thing, I could not look away. It was as if something was holding my head and eyes in place. The Skinwalker just smiled at me, this inhuman smile that went ear to ear, showing crooked, yellow, pointed teeth. I felt like I was going to throw up, and I was panicking through the whole ordeal. The Skinwalker started to crumple down onto all fours, still keeping up with the bus. I could see his bones crack and reform, hair started appearing all over the Skinwalker's body, and in about 3 seconds was now a coyote, and it ran off into the desert out of view. As soon as it was gone, I ran to the onboard bathroom and puked a mixture of food and blood. I didn't want to tell anyone for fear they would think I was crazy. I confided in my Navajo friend. She told me that I needed to see the chief, who also happened to be a friend of mine, and get a blessing. I saw him the next school day in the parking lot. He just came up to me and mumbled something in Navajo while waving a feathered scepter-like thing, turned around, got in his truck, and drove away. To this day, I haven't seen another Skinwalker. Number 2. About 15 years ago, my mom and cousin were coming home from visiting my aunt who lived 2 hours away. The drive takes you through the desert and up some mountains, but there is a shortcut you can take to avoid the mountains and shave about 10 minutes off your drive time. Only problem is the shortcut takes you literally through the middle of nowhere. It's a 2-lane road with nothing for 30 miles. No houses, no shops, no lights, not even those roadside emergency phone booths. They're driving along through the shortcut at about 11 p.m. when they spot something on the side of the road. At first, my cousin thinks it's a rock, so she slows down to go around it. When she gets closer, she realizes it's a lady with long black hair and what looks like to be a burlap shawl wrapped around her. She's crouched down, facing away from my cousin. My mom says that she thought the lady might have been in trouble, so they pull up next to her and ask if she's okay and if she needs help. My cousin says the lady stood up and looked at them and let out a shriek like a banshee. She insists that her eyes were pitch black and her skin was as white as a sheet, and she was really skinny, like almost anorexic skinny. I debate this because it was dark out and her mind might have been playing tricks on her, but nonetheless it was enough to spook the hell out of her and make her punch the accelerator and get out of there. The lady briefly ran after them, but they lost sight of her after a short bit. They didn't stop for anything, even running a stop sign until they got to the next town, where they stopped at a gas station to get something to drink and to collect their thoughts. A few weeks later, my cousin was at work telling her coworker what happened, and she said she thought it might have been a Skinwalker that she saw, and that she's lucky she got away. That spooked her even worse, so now she won't go through the shortcut anymore. Even when someone else is driving, she insists on taking the main highway. My mom maintains that it was probably some crazy lady on drugs. Number 1. So this incident I've never posted about online. I have to describe 2 different things that happened about 6 years apart in the same area in New Mexico. I am of Native American descent, but my tribe is from the north, not New Mexico. Back in 2009 or so, I went on a camping trip with 2 of my friends to this place called El Malpais, which is about 30 miles south of Grants, New Mexico. This area is full of lava fields and there are gigantic lava tunnel caves, which we were there to explore. When we got to the area for the Big Tubes location, and we looked for a place on the lava field to set up camp, and this was difficult because the ground is made of lava, and it is so hard that the trails in the area are Anasazi rock cairns that you follow to the cave entrances. This area is an unforgiving landscape, and you follow the rock cairns as the trail markers because the ground is so hard that there are no walking trails to follow. The rocks here have a lot of iron in them, and this can drain batteries quickly and it makes compasses and electronics malfunction. On flight charts, this area is marked as a no-fly zone for airplanes. People get lost here and die pretty often. There is no water except in the caves underground. For these reasons, not many people go to visit and hike in this area. People do get lost and die here. If you do a Google search for people missing in El Malpais, you will see what I mean. On the lava field where we could set up our tents. We then went into the caves for the whole day and came out at night. The caves extend for miles, and we spent many hours exploring them. When we were at the very end of a cave before we turned back to begin the long underground journey back, we were drinking in this small side cave, and I asked my friends something like, "I wonder if there are Skinwalkers here." My friends are very New Mexican, and they understand the Skinwalker taboo, and they told me not to talk about that, so I stopped. We left the cave, and got a bit lost finding our campsite, but we eventually found it, thanks to some by now nearly dead glow sticks that I had hung in the trees earlier. We made a fire, ate, drank, and hung out before going to bed. The next morning, we all got up and it was a nice morning. We packed our things and headed back to Albuquerque. When we got back to Albuquerque, one of my friends told me that he had a strange experience. He said that morning before we left, he woke up to go relieve himself. He urinated and turned around, and he said there was an old Indian man who looked scraggly, who morphed from a coyote to a man in rags rapidly. He came up to him, got right in his face, and asked, "Can I have a ride to Albuquerque?" My friend said that he felt frozen, and this is the last thing that he remembers. He said that he woke up in the tent after this and was not able to tell if it had really happened or if it was a dream. He said, though, that when he woke up to go to the bathroom, there had been a thin layer of snow on the ground blanketing the whole area. This snow cover was almost gone, but it had clearly been more prevalent earlier before we woke up. This detail makes me think that my friend was not dreaming. Anyway, let's fast forward about 6 years to a couple of months ago. I do photography now with friends, and it's our hobby to leave Albuquerque and go to the ruins or neat geographic features to do night photography. I went back to these caves with a different group of friends. We got there at about 1 a.m. and hiked to the cave entrance and took some photos and headed back. We left the caves after our photos and went down a dirt road for about 3 miles. And this road had been difficult for the little truck we were in, so we stopped at the T with another more easy dirt road, and we were just hanging out. My male friend and I were riding in the cab, and there were 2 girls in the camper shell in the back. Where we stopped was about 3 miles from the campsite where the previous experience happened. My male friend and I got out of the truck and had sat down on the tailgate. Very soon after we stopped, there was a loud whistle from the desert in some trees and bushes maybe 50 to 100 feet from us. This was frightening because the whistle was definitely a person and it was 4 a.m. and we were in an area where there is no one who lives for dozens of miles and people hardly ever camp here because of the difficult terrain. There is no reason a person should have been out there. The road we had just been on was a dirt road that ended at the caves we had just visited, and there had been no other cars there. And the dirt road we were at a T with was a road to a desolate wasteland that hardly anyone goes down. When I heard this whistle here, it really enforced what my friend had said about his morning visitor, and it really creeped me out. I told my friends we needed to go, closed up the bed of the truck, and we got out of there. And that's the end of this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see videos just like this one.